Now, does that mean that everything out here is non-existent? No, it's all there. It's just that our limitations have set us to say, hey, this is all you're capable of. You're not good enough. You don't deserve this. So this is all we see. But as you start to remove those layers, you open up that aperture, all of a sudden what happens is all the opportunities, the relationships, the good health, everything that's already there, now you're just opening your mind to see it. And that's what really happens is when people remove these limitations, suddenly they start having opportunities come their way and the circumstances and events to lead them to create the lives that they want. So and maybe at some point I'll share with you guys the whole sleep hypnosis story, because that's a very fascinating thing that almost defies science and logic. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the Success Flow Podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin. All right, we're back at it on the Success Flow Podcast, and never been more excited. No slight to any of the other guests we've had, but the amount that we talk about coaching on this podcast and the impact some of those coaches have had, I could not be more thrilled to have one of my most recent coaches, Dom the Hypnotist, on the show today. How are you doing today, Dom?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on, Phil. It's been time in the making, so it's cool to be here with you guys, and then finally meet Steven too.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on too. Phil's like, he's your number one groupie, talks about you all the time. He goes to your seminars and comes back and shares all the great stuff. And, you know, we've been wanting to get you on for some time, and we're just super blessed and honored to have you on the podcast and just kind of diving into a topic that not a lot of people know about. I'm myself included. I mean, I've never actually been hypnotized. I don't know truly the benefits of it and how that all works. So we're excited just to share some knowledge. And this podcast is all about, you know, what defines success for people. And this is an aspect of that. And you've got some heavy hitters that you've hypnotized under your belt. So I'm excited to dive into some stories.
Yeah. Well, the best analogy I could give you for hypnosis is, you know, our brain is the most powerful computer on planet Earth, right? And some people would say, well, the MacBook or this thing or that thing. Well, guess what? Who created the MacBook? Our brains did. Somebody's brain out there. So what happens is that when we're born, nobody gives us the instruction manual to our computer brain. And so we just kind of go through life just flailing around, not really understanding what's going on. And a few things happen. One is, as we go through life and we have life experiences, some are good, some are bad. Everything is always down to our perspective, what we want to define as good or bad. But what happens is we start to get all these files that pile up in our mind, right? Just like they do on a computer. And if you have a bunch of files, old files that pile up in your computer that you no longer use, what's it going to do to your computer? You guys tell me.
Slow it down.
It's going to slow it down. I'll give you the answer. Yeah, it's going to slow it down. So one of the things through hypnosis, because Steven mentioned not really knowing much about it, is we go through and we delete all the old files where we just get rid of them. So now your computer brain can start running and functioning at a higher level. Also, you know, you ever hear people like, oh man, I have such a bad memory and I don't remember things and this and that. It's not that. It's just they have so much minutia, so much unresolved stuff that they haven't got rid of, that when you get rid of that, now you're opening up your computer brain to take on new information that you can actually memorize. The second thing is that as we go through life, just like on our computers, we get viruses in the mind. And those viruses turn into physical pain. They turn into cancers, lupus, all these kinds of illness and diseases. And so one of the other things with hypnosis is we identify what those viruses are and we remove them from our computer brain. And then third is once we remove viruses, we got to figure out, okay, how do we protect ourselves from new viruses? Because there's constant stuff from social media, from the actual media, from the indoctrination from Hollywood, your friends, your family. And we have to understand how to block that, how to put up that security system so none of those thoughts get into our mind and start to fester. And then the last thing with hypnosis is once we've cleared out all the old garbage, we've removed any viruses, we set the protection so no new viruses come in. The last thing is, how do we upgrade our computer brain as we go through, right? How do we, okay, we're at this level, like Phil's experience, there's a saying, new levels, new devils, right? So you get to this level, how do we upgrade so that we can get past that? And then once you get to this level, we need to upgrade it again. And so one of the things that I'm doing now is more training people how to do that for themselves. Not only me doing it with them, like you can hand your computer over to like the geek squad and they can do everything I just told you, but you can also learn how to do that for yourself so that you can self cleanse, self heal, and keep upgrading. So that's the best analogy I could use for what hypnosis actually is.
That's a great starting point to kick us off. And I think that speaks a lot to what you're doing right now. You're not trying to work with the same individuals for 6 months or year after year after year, even though some people are wanting to do that. You're teaching folks how to take that power over themselves in their own mind. But you didn't know how to do that. This isn't something you aspired to do and said, I'm going to grow up and be Dom the Hypnotist. So could you take the listeners back onto kind of your journey to hypnosis? Because it's the similarities are amazing. And I love hearing your kind of approach and journey toward this craft.
Yeah, so I'll start from the very beginning, and I usually say this whenever I tell this story. But my parents had me when they were 15 and 17 years old. So my mom was 15, and not only that, but my grandmother had my mom when she was 16, and then my great grandmother, who's still alive till this day, had my grandmother when she was a teenager as well. So, as you can imagine, growing up with 3 generations of teen moms, teen parents. I didn't grow up with the best mindset, or, I didn't have all this self-esteem and confidence, right? Because I'm a child being raised by another child, and they don't know what they're doing, right? And growing up, it was just kind of the same stuff we all go through, right? Feeling insecure, and we moved around a lot. So I was always a new kid in school, trying to fit in and all that kind of weird stuff. And then when I was 18 years old and I graduated high school, I started selling life insurance. And as most of us do when we get into business or sales or whatever, we get into personal development, right? And back in the day, I would drive around and I have like my CD, I'd have like remember those old CD binders where you'd put all your little CDs in? You had like 100 of them. I had like a $2,000 worth of like audio books from Tony Robbins and the Grant Cardones and everybody. And what would happen is, when I would listen to that information, I'd be really inspired. It would keep me focused. I'd be motivated. But then as soon as I stopped listening to it for a few days, I would kind of go back into my old ways and my old mindset. And the other thing that happened, which I'll explain a little bit more here in a bit as to why this is important. A lot of times I would listen to the information and subconsciously, I didn't know what this was at the time. I just, whatever. But subconsciously, I would find myself saying things like, oh yeah, that'll work for them, but not for me. Or, oh, that person just got lucky. Or, maybe his dad probably got it for him, or that's why he's successful. Like I would just rationalize why I wasn't successful. Right. And so my journey from basically 18 to 30 was just like, I would have success. And then at some point I would kind of sabotage it, lose it. And then I would be like, oh shoot, I got to do something. And then I'd have success and I'd sabotage it, lose it. And it was just like an up and down process till I was 30 years old. Well, then the last 2 years that I was selling insurance, I had some other businesses I tried to do and I failed. So I just went back to insurance. And the last 2 years I was selling insurance, I hated my life. I would drive around every day just thinking to myself like, dude, I do not want to do this for 20 or 30 more years. Like there's got to be something else, and I'd have all these ideas, but nothing ever really stuck. And the other thing was, I don't know why, and maybe you guys feel this way, but I always felt like I was meant to do something more or be something more, like something. I just didn't know what it was. So then I think it was November or October of 2018. My mom calls me and she's like, hey, son, I have great news to share with you. I'm like, what's up? And she goes, I went to this course in NLP and hypnosis, and oh my God, it was so amazing. It changed my life. You got to go to it. So I'm like, okay, cool, Mom. How much is it? What do I got to do? Whatever. Right. She's like, oh, it's like $3,500. And so I said, okay, Mom, I'll think about it. I'll let you know if I want to go.
Yeah.
Well, my mom didn't know this, but at the time, 1 month prior, I was so broke and so broken that I just basically like gave up on everything. I called the bank to come get my car because I couldn't make my $600 car payment. I let all my credit cards go. It was like 40 something $1,000 of debt. I owed money to the IRS, everything. And I was just like, all right, dude, I quit. Right. So, and I didn't want to tell my mom that. I told her, okay, yeah, I'll let you know. Cause I just didn't want to admit that that was where I was in my life. You know, like yeah, I'm 30 years old and I don't got $3,500. Like I felt ashamed, you know, embarrassed. And the other thing is my mom, she had me when she was 15 and then she joined the military to make a better life for us. And then, you know, she was married a couple times, but in between that process, she worked multiple jobs. She went to school at night to get her bachelor's, then she got her master's, and then she started her own business and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, my mom did all that with kids and I can't even scrape up fucking 3 G's. Like, Jesus Christ, this is sad, right? So then a month goes by or whatever it was, and Christmas of 2018, the Christmas gift my mom got me was an introductory course to hypnosis. So I was like, all right, this is kind of cool, you know, maybe I'll go learn a cool party trick or something, you know, because up until this point, I thought hypnosis, well, let me back up a second. I've always been fascinated with the mind, hypnosis, NLP, all that kind of stuff, body language. That's like my favorite stuff forever. And I would watch videos on YouTube and stuff, and I'd be like, they're paid actors, or it's fake, it's scripted, it's, you know, whatever. But then one time when I first moved to Vegas, I went to a hypnosis show with my girl. And, you know, I'm standing there and I'm like 20, 30 feet away from the stage. And this guy brings people up on and he hypnotizes them. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. These are not actors. Like, this is really happening. Now, at the time, I thought he had mind control and he's like demonic powers and stuff, which is just not true. But maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. So I went to it thinking it was going to be that. Like, I'm going to learn how to like grab somebody's hand and go sleep, right, or whatever. But when I went to the course, I had zero expectation that I was going to do this for a living. Like literally, the furthest thing from my mind was like, I'm going to become a hypnotist. You know, that was just kind of corny to me, to be honest. And so I went to the course, and dude, in those 2.5 days, I completely just transformed as a person. Like when I got out of that course, I walked different, I talked different, I looked different, I felt different. Like my energy, everything was different. And so I made a decision that day. I said, you know what? This is what I've been put on this earth to do. It's like, I got lucky, dude. I got lucky. A lot of people go through their whole entire life never finding their purpose. And I just, whatever, my mom hooked me up and I did, you know? And then, you know, and that's how I got started from there.
Yeah, well, you got lucky, and I know Steven's going to jump in here with an opportunity, pivoting on opportunity in a second, but you've also worked your tail off. As soon as you found this opening and that drive, you've just been gung-ho, putting everything you have into it, and that's literally the epitome of this podcast. So, Steven, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, thank you for sharing your backstory. Your mom sounds like a badass, by the way, and thank her for her service. That's incredible. I've got some family members, not my immediate family, but cousins who had kids young too, and saw some of that indirectly of what the challenges are there. And so hats off to her for sure. But yeah, I mean, Phil's right. I'm a big advocate of like reflecting on your pivotal moments and the opportunities that you said yes to. I don't think anyone gets lucky. It's just creating opportunity from opportunity. And you did just that. And when you can recognize, even when it doesn't see it right in front of you, like you're like, Mom, what is this hypnosis class? Like, what? It's like out of nowhere. Why would that even make sense? But it was someone that you knew, like, and trust that said, hey, I want you to try this. And you're like, okay, well, let's just be open-minded about it and give it a shot. And then here you are, you're like, now this is like my calling. I've found my massive transformative purpose. And now I'm just going to serve that. And you're helping others. So it's really cool to see. But you're right. I was, kind of like, you see the guys on stage and you're like, is this real? Are they faking? And you having the ability to just know when they are and know when they're not. Like, are they acting or are they not? That probably helped you become very successful in this field because you recognized it all your life, who was acting and who wasn't, and just anything that they were doing.
Well, yeah, 100%. And over the years, even though the insurance stuff was a high and low a lot, I worked with thousands of people doing sales, selling insurance. And when you do that, you just become a very high level at reading body language and tonality and facial expressions. And you become, and not only that, that develops into your intuition as well, to where like, you just know, right? You just know certain things about certain people. And that really was, that was just kind of like my 12 years of boot camp that was getting me ready for hypnosis. And you're right. Like I say, I got lucky because I got lucky in the sense of my mom got me the course and that all just transpired randomly. But what led after that was definitely not luck, because I took massive action right away. Like when I got out of the course, in the first 2 weeks, I hypnotized over 100 people for free. I was just like, every single moment, I just became completely obsessed with it. It was like something took over, it was weird. And
that was probably the catalyst to your success. That was probably the catalyst, is like right when you got back, how many people go to seminars kind of like you, listen to those audiobooks or on CDs, and then 2 days later you forget about them and then nothing happens. There's no implementation, right? So when you dove in and you got the course and you're like, massive action right away, just continued that trajectory of where you are now.
Dude, 100%. Awesome. Like if anybody wants to make something happen, I saw, I wish I could remember this. So Rob Dyrdek said there's like 5 steps to basically going through like a success cycle or something. And he basically said, step 1 is you're really, really excited about it or whatever. Step 2 is you get to, you start taking action on it. You start moving forward. Step 3, which is where most people quit, is you realize it's harder than you thought it was going to be. And this is where a lot of people fall off, right? They're excited. The step 1, oh my God, I found the thing, the golden ticket. And then they start taking action, and then they hit roadblocks and they go, oh shit, this is hard. Oh, I'm going to just go back to the old ways, right? And then step 4 is actually seeing it through, getting through that hard phase. And then step 5 is like, boom, you've got it. It's successful. It's on autopilot. It's unconscious competence. And that's what happened. I just basically, I got the excitement. I took action. I realized, oh shoot, this might be a little harder than I thought, but I was so excited about it. I just kept going. And then I was able to see it through,
Absolutely. And that's step 3, that call it valley of despair, when the resistance kicks in. That's when a lot of people are reaching out to Dom. And what I realized when I had the opportunity to work with one of Dom's team members or him, made the extra investment because I can see where Dom is headed. And when we first engaged, I thought, oh, this is going to be a next step up from the flow state training. I'm gonna improve my focus and be even more productive. And that's where I thought we were going. Little did I know, out of the gate, we had to go way backwards. And by the second phone call, I'm in tears. Angry that I'm sitting here crying with a guy that I've never met in person at the time, feeling all the emotions, but realizing it hit me very, very squarely. And that Dom reiterates is, most of the time, almost every time, we're fighting things that happened to us before we're 7 years old, and they have perpetuated, compounded, and we've never addressed them. And that can lead to most people's problems. So I wanted to kick it over to you, Dom. Talk about that, how often people are pushing back. Oh, there's no way I have anything before 7. And some of the examples that you have of people that have combated that when you sit down to talk to them.
Yeah. It's even including me. And I consistently am leveling up and leveling up. It's just what happens is there's this this is called the cycle of life, cycle of success. It's basically, let's say you're down here at this really low point, and through that low point is when we're like, okay, all hands on deck. We got to figure this out. And then boom, we get a huge surge. We get a breakthrough. And then we kind of flatline for a little while, and we kind of go through that. We're at that new level. And then it seems as though things are starting to fall apart. We're starting to go back down and kind of in reverse. And that's where we go, oh my God, all hands on deck. And then boom, we get that next breakthrough. And this is kind of a cycle that plays out over and over again for people. And so even for myself, even though I do this, I go through that same cycle. Like I go through the parts where it's like, okay, I'm coasting. There's no blocks coming up. Everything's fine. And then stuff starts to fall apart. I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And then I go in my mind and I clear it. And then boom, I get that next breakthrough, right? But here's what happens. Not only is it 0 to 7, it's also genetic trauma and genetic memories that are passed down through our DNA as a survival mechanism, right? So there's many different studies on this, on epigenetics, but one study that they did, or experiment, is they take chickens and they breed them for 10 generations, and they have them in these giant chicken coops. They don't see any outside anything. It's just other chickens, right? No, they're not exposed to the elements. So they'll breed them for 10 generations. And then what they'll do is they'll fly over like a shape of something. So they'll fly over a circle over the chicken coop. Chickens don't react. They fly a square over the chicken coop. Chickens don't react. They fly a triangle. Nothing happens. But as soon as they fly a hawk, the chickens start freaking out, right? Now, how is it that 10 generations removed from the elements that the chickens know, hey, when you see that, it's a threat? It's because for hundreds, if not thousands of generations, chickens have been hanging out with their family just on the farm or whatever. And then they see a hawk swoop down and swoop up grandma. And they go, oh my God, next time we see that, we got to hide, we got to run. So it's the same thing with humans. When we go through our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-great-grandparents, whatever traumas and limitations that they have, not all of them necessarily, but that stuff gets passed down to us. And then what happens is we will unconsciously, means we're not aware of it, we'll live out like these limitations and these traumas over and over again. So one of the things we always do with people is we go deep and we go back into like, hey, where did this start? Was it a 0 to 7 thing? Was it your mom while she was pregnant with you? Was it before you were born? And we get people to find these memories. And the crazy thing is, and I've done this with so many people, I can't even count. I've had so many people tap into genetic memories that nobody ever told them. They never knew anything about, like some really personal stuff with their parents, their grandparents, that nobody would tell their kids this kind of stuff. And they tap into the memory and they go and verify it with their mom, their dad, their grandpa, whoever. And it's never not checked out. Every single time I've had somebody find a genetic memory they didn't know about and they asked the person, it was 100% real.
That is wild.
It's crazy, right?
It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. I mean, just thinking back, like, and even like you're saying, memories where you weren't even on this planet yet. It was just generational type memories. You can tap into that. How do you do this, Dom? Do you do this one-on-one? Do you do this at your workshop seminars? Do you do this virtual? I mean, how do you get this level of, getting this deep with somebody?
Yeah, you could do it in a group setting. The thing with groups, though, so some of the stuff that people go through is really traumatic, right? Think of like the worst things you could possibly think of. And when you're dealing with like really bad trauma, you just got to be kind of, just a little bit careful, because you could put somebody back into that moment and they kind of go relive the trauma. But it's so easy. It's so simple. It's literally just asking yourself, getting yourself into a relaxed state where you're totally conscious, you're totally aware, you're not sleeping, you're not in like ayahuascaville and you're like hallucinating all this stuff. It's literally like having this conversation right now, except your eyes are closed, you're a little bit more relaxed, because what happens is when our eyes are closed and we're relaxed, now we're able to tap into the subconscious, which has all the memories. And we just ask a series of questions to get to the root of whatever the thing is. And then it comes up and then we clear it. And then people, they remove. Here's what happens, right? Let me give you another analogy. Imagine that we all see life through a certain lens, right? And let's imagine like this is my lens here. This is the aperture on my camera lens. Well, all I can see is what's in front of me here. Now, does that mean that everything out here is non-existent? No, it's all there. It's just that our limitations have set us to say, hey, this is all you're capable of. You're not good enough. You don't deserve this. So this is all we see. But as you start to remove those layers, you open up that aperture, all of a sudden what happens is all the opportunities, the relationships, the good health, everything that's already there. Now you're just opening your mind to see it. And that's what really happens is when people remove these limitations, suddenly they start having opportunities come their way and the circumstances and events to lead them to create the lives that they want. So, yeah. And maybe at some point I'll share with you guys the whole sleep hypnosis story, because that's a very fascinating thing that almost defies science and logic. You know what I mean?
Well, that's actually a good transition, because Steven's a big Vikings fan.
Okay. Minnesota Vikings? Are you Vikings fan?
Yeah.
Dom?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I actually am.
Much to our demise.
I have the client that plays for the Vikings. So I became a Vikings fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Much to our demise. Like it's not the greatest thing to brag about, but it's something that we have in common. And I love what you said before, just the awareness of opportunity. I mean, that's the hardest thing, is for people to open up their minds. And if you can tap into that through hypnosis or whatever else you got. I mean, a pivotal moment that I had in my life was a year ago, was a 90-minute breathwork class. And a lot of what you talked about kind of were some of the things that I experienced of tapping into the subconscious. It wasn't more so, and you probably see this too. I know we talked a lot about trauma and early childhood and all that kind of stuff, but it was more so forward visions of what I think, like almost like seeing myself of what I should be that I'm not right now. So what do I got to do? And it kind of gave me a roadmap of building my life out and really just figuring out, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? And those visions were so real. It was so wild. And I would imagine being, under hypnosis, you have those similar type of thoughts and visions and actions that you want to put forth in a forward thinking way, as opposed to the past, but you probably have to work out your past first in order to take a step forward, is what I'm assuming you're hearing from your people. Do you call them patients or clients or what? What do we call ourselves? Clients. Okay.
Clients, yeah. And in Hawaiian spirituality, there's a saying, first Noah, then Noho. And what that means is that first you have to clear your stuff that's holding you back. And then we can focus on what we want to create in the future. It's one of my clients said it easily. He's like, first we subtract, then we add. Because what happens a lot of times is if you get only focused on moving forward without clearing what you're holding on to, is you end up actually delaying the time that you can get to the end result of the place that you're heading. So it's almost like, imagine if you're going through a 100-mile hike through the desert and you have two options. One option is you can carry a 100-pound backpack with you. And the other option is there's no 100-pound backpack. Well, who's going to win that race? Option number two, the guy that doesn't have the backpack. So what we're doing by holding on to stuff is we're carrying that backpack of the childhood stuff, the high school stuff, the breakups, the family stuff, the anger, the violence, or whatever. And we're just carrying it with us through life. So yeah, you could get to your ultimate destination without clearing stuff. It's just going to take you longer and be a lot more of an arduous trek. So I don't know about you, but like, I just want to let go of that BS and move forward,
Well, yeah, it's like you said, clearing out your operating system, clearing out those files so that way you can be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But yeah, you can use hypnosis for both clearing and then getting very clear on what the vision is for the future and essentially locking it in so deep in the subconscious that you become passionate and obsessed with figuring out how to make it happen. Right.
That's perfect. Let's talk about the sleep hypnosis a little bit and the epiphany that you had when working with a couple other clients and then developing the sleep hypnosis that you do have. I've used multiple of them. They are amazing. And it's so interesting when you talk to other people that have actually done the sleep hypnosis and how, depending on your current state, the actual audio will change depending on what you need to clear. And it took Dom some figuring out after multiple situations with feedback to come to this conclusion. So maybe talk a little bit about the client you're working with in the NFL and how the sleep hypnosis came about.
Yeah. So I was working with, in 2021, I was working with a client and we started off in preseason and he wasn't getting a lot of playing time. He'd kind of rotate in a little bit here and there. But then about halfway through the season, he got his first opportunity to start. So naturally, your first NFL start, he was really nervous. We got together for a weekly session. He's like, yo, man, like, if there's anything, any tricks up your sleeve, anything we haven't done yet, like we got to throw the kitchen sink at it right now. And whatever we've got to, whatever else we haven't done, let's do it today. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the play, because when you're in the NFL, you want to do your best to memorize the playbook of the next upcoming opponent, so you can best predict what they're going to do. So what we did is we took the plays of the other team and we put it in a hypnosis recording, and then I had him just loop it throughout the night, right? So he's hearing these plays over and over and over again. Now, what's funny is I didn't even know if it was going to work. I just said, there's always the time where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to find out though, right? There's always that moment for everything. Even with when I first learned hypnosis, like, I hope this works, right? And it's also funny because at that time I'd been in hypnosis for 2 years, and I never even believed in sleep hypnosis because I thought, like, okay, dude, you're blacked out, you're unconscious, you're sleeping. How is this actually going to help you? Like, it didn't make any sense. But I knew it wouldn't hurt. So I had him start listening to it. And then, so he listened to it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He went out and played on Sunday. And then he messaged me after the game. And he's like, dude, I have never been more in tune with what the other team was going to do. And he said, it was like, I knew what they were going to do before they did it. And he also had mentioned, like, this is his first start. He's not really like a leader on the team, but he just took that leadership role, like calling out plays. Hey, yeah, I don't know what they say, but like, whatever, 42, blah, 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 whatever. He started taking over that role on the defense because he had memorized the playbook essentially.
That's crazy.
So after that, I was like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So
that's
after
awesome.
that, I was like, okay, I guess it works, right? So then maybe a couple of weeks or like a month later, I found this video on YouTube, and it was all about manifesting money and creating financial abundance, right? So the video had like millions of views, thousands of comments. And so my skeptical mind is kind of like, yeah, okay, sure. This is, I don't know. And again, I'm a hypnotist, but I still am skeptical about it. So I'm like reading all the comments, and people are like, oh my God, dude, I started listening to this. And in the week I made $10,000. I made $2,000, 500. I got a raise. I made 40,000 this month, the most money I ever made in my life. Just like literally just hundreds of comments like this. So I'm like, man, this dude.
I'm ready, Dom. Hypnotize me. Hit me up with my financial dreams. Let's make this happen.
I'll give you the sleep hypnosis for sure. But yeah, man. And I was like, this dude paid for bots. Like, these are fake accounts. They're just commenting to make them look cool. So I started researching each individual comment, and like damn near every single person had videos. There were real channels. So I was like, all right, I guess it's legit. So, and the other thing too, I was like, you know what, dude, I'm going to be sleeping anyway. So who cares? Like, I might as well, it's not like I got to take time out of my life. So I started listening to it on a Tuesday. And by Sunday, we had our biggest week ever at the time. It was like by 50%. I mean, like at the time, it was a lot of money. It's like 25 grand. I was like, holy shit, dude. I literally had clients coming out of the woodworks to work with me. Now, this is all great and everything. The challenge was, at the time, I didn't have a team like I do now of other therapists and salespeople and everything. And so it was good that I had all these new clients in, but I couldn't sustain that week after week after week. Like, it was just,
now you're drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, exactly. So the sleep hypnosis was so powerful, I stopped listening to it. I was like, okay, I got to get caught up on this. So then maybe like a month went by or so, and I had an epiphany, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm a hypnotist. I know how to hypnotize people. The only thing I don't know how to do is put this 8-hour track together and like put it on a thing so people can listen to it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to create my own sleep hypnosis, but I'm going to be very specific, and I'm going to say, okay, yes, essentially I want to make more money, but I don't want to work more. I want to work the same or less. That was my intention. That was my goal. So I tweaked the affirmation a little bit, and then I put it on my YouTube channel, and same thing, dude. Within a couple of days, people are like, oh my God, money's coming out of nowhere, and deals are closing, and I got a raise, just all this kind of stuff. Right. But then other people were saying that I got different feedback saying that they couldn't understand, like the recording was corrupted, and the file was distorted, and they couldn't understand it. So my initial thought was, oh, shoot, I must have messed something up on the tech side. And then I thought, okay, maybe because I made it with a MacBook, it doesn't work on Google phones or whatever. So I just kind of left it like, whatever. So then what I started to do after that, because most of our clients are business owners, salespeople, executives, stuff like that. And all of us want to make more money, right? So when people came in our program, I started giving them this recording as part of their little homework assignment. Like, hey, listen to this every night, the whole thing. So same thing happened. People are getting great results. But then I had a client, she messaged me one day and she's like, Dom, I think something's wrong with the recording. And I said, what's up? And she says, I was listening to it for the first 3 days, but now I can't understand it. Like the file is corrupted. It sounds like it's distorted. So I said, I've heard this before, screen record it, send it to me. I'll take a look. So she screen records it, sends it to me. I play it and I can hear it perfectly fine. Right. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. Well, then an hour goes by and she messaged me again. She's like, Dom, I think I'm going crazy. So what's going on? And she said, I just shared your recording with my partner. We're in the same exact room, listening to the same exact thing. And she can hear it perfectly fine, but I can't understand a word. She said, it sounds like it's in a different language.
Crap.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like, just like you, holy crap, what is going on? And so I said, okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's talk about it in our session next week. So we jump on Zoom and I want to see it for myself, right? So I share my screen, I play the recording, and sure enough, I can hear it as clear as you can hear me right now, and she can't understand a word. She said it sounded like it was in Latin or something. Now she could read the captions on the screen, but it wasn't processing auditorily. So again, I didn't really know what was happening. I just went with my intuition and my instincts, and I said, okay, if she could hear it for the first couple of days and then she can't hear it, her mind must be blocking it out because it's afraid to manifest more money and to create more success. So I put her in hypnosis and I started asking her subconscious mind all these questions like, hey, why are you not, basically what we said is, okay, the first part of it is large sums of passive money come to me. So we asked, hey, subconscious mind, why are you not letting me hear this part of the affirmation? And her mind was like, I'm afraid if I get large sums of money, I'll blow it. I'm afraid if I get large sums of money, my family will be jealous of me and they'll be envious of me and I'll kind of get excommunicated from my little tribe, right? So there's all these fears and limiting beliefs. And then we go through one by one. We go through what we talked about a little while ago, the genetic stuff, the 0 to 7 stuff, and we clear it out. And then 45 minutes later, I play the recording for her, and then now she can hear it fine. Now, since then, this has literally happened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. It's freaking insane. So, that's why I told you about that filter, right? Like it's the same thing. People have this filter. It's not letting not letting the affirmation sink in because they're afraid of success or, whatever it may be. So did it ever distort on you, Phil?
It did. It distorted on me. And after hearing that, because you laid that out in the training, I actually did some clearing. And then after clearing, could hear a crystal. It was bizarre.
So this is different than like, how you heard those, what was it? Like Laurel and Yanni sounds, like Yanni or whatever, or like the white dress versus the brown and blue dress or whatever, like how people just pick things up. This is different, right? Those are like brain game type things. This is like, I can't hear it because I'm not accepting it. So once I learn how to accept it, now I can hear it. Like that's wild. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. I had a client, I've had multiple clients literally like they're in a room full of 4, 5, 6 people. And they're like, dude, tell me what this says. And every single person in the room can hear it. And they're like, I can't understand it. Now, what's also crazy, which is a little bit different, but it's the same thing. One day, so I do a group call on Mondays and I help people like coaching and stuff like that. And one day I told a story about how my buddy passed away. And the whole purpose of telling this story was about it was about letting go of resentment and stuff like that. Because at one point, my buddy and I had gotten to like an argument, and then we weren't friends for a little while. Then we became friends, and then 8 months later, he died. Right. So what was interesting was I told the whole story of how it all happened, And then afterward, I had a client message me and she goes, "Oh my God, Dom, the craziest thing happened." I said, "What's up?" And she goes, "As you were telling that story," she goes, "as soon as you said, I picked up the phone and then my buddy gave me the news." She goes, "For the next 20 minutes, I couldn't understand a word you were saying." She's like, "It sounded like you were underwater talking to me." Yeah. And she goes, "Not only that, after about 20 minutes, I passed out. I was so tired. I fell asleep." And she goes, "I woke up and my battery was completely drained." And she goes, "I started off the call having 100% battery and my battery drained in the 30 minutes or whatever it was as we're on that call." So it's not only just like the money stuff and the sleep stuff, like her brain, that's what we call a non-confront. A non-confront is your mind doesn't want to confront what's there. So therefore you'll fall asleep, you'll distort it in your brain, you won't see it, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just the sleep hypnosis. It literally could just be the words that you're telling somebody doesn't compute in their mind, or their mind doesn't want to compute it or accept it.
So we talked a little bit about potentially dropping Steven into his first hypnosis here on the podcast so the listeners can get a glimpse of what it's like. Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do it. So here's the thing with hypnosis. Again, I talked about a little bit earlier how when I went to the hypnosis show, I thought, oh, this is black magic, or this guy has some control over him, or him or her, the people on stage, and it's not. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and what that means is that if you don't want to be hypnotized, you won't be hypnotized. So the other thing is, again, it's self-hypnosis. So I'm just a guide. I'm just somebody taking you through the process. It's up to you to open your mind to do that. Now, I'll say as like a little side note, hypnosis is used in every single movie. It's used in the news, in the media. It's used in everything. Now, what happens is people are unconsciously being hypnotized, although they're not saying, "Hey, I'm willing to be hypnotized right now." Just them watching the news or watching the movie, they're giving permission to be influenced by the television or whatever the case may be. So you can hypnotize people without their conscious awareness necessarily, but there has to be some type of opening or some type of, "Hey, I'm willing to do this," or "I'm willing to listen to this person," right? Now, if somebody goes, "I don't want to hear it, I don't want to be hypnotized, it's not going to work on me," it won't work. Now, the other thing is, hypnosis is simply a process of using your active imagination. So, the most successful, it's funny because people will say, "Oh, only gullible people can be hypnotized. Oh, you have to be weak-minded." It's actually the exact opposite. Here's why. In order to do hypnosis, you have to have a powerful imagination. Well, guess what? The most powerful, successful people on planet Earth have the best imaginations. Because in order for you to create the MacBook, create the iPhone, build a casino, build a home, you have to have an imagination that's not a normal imagination. You have to go, "Hey, I want to create this in my life," and it all starts here, and then we put it into action. So when we do this process, we're going to test how good your imagination is. And like I said, the better your imagination is, the more successful you're going to be in life, because again, everything starts in our mind. As a matter of fact,
Man,
the word imagine.
You're really putting me on the spot here, Dom. I'm going to have to try and open my mind up as much as possible.
You up to say, "Hey, look, dude, this is called a pre-frame." But here's the thing: everything I'm saying is true. I'm shifting your perspective and going, he's right. Like, yeah, dude, the people that say, "Oh, I can't be hip, I'm not gullible. Oh, I can't visualize this. I can't follow along." That's weak-minded. It's the strong-minded person goes, "Okay, I'm going to visualize the thing. I'm going to imagine the thing. I'm going to do the thing," right? Now, what was I saying? Okay, we'll jump in. So we're just going to use your imagination, okay? So first thing I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in and breathe out. Relax your mind, relax your body. Now, I want you to imagine are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay, I want you to imagine in your left hand is a lemon, okay? And it's a whole lemon. You can see the whole thing. It's one piece altogether. And I want you to pretend or imagine like you can see the lemon in your left palm. Like literally, you could even keep your eyes closed, but like shift your head down like you're really wanting to look at this lemon. Yeah, there you go. And I want you to notice the texture of the lemon, all the little dimples and, the size, the shape, the color. Notice the brightness, that bright yellow. And as you notice that, I want you to notice how it feels. Like, what's the weight look like, or what's the weight feel like? Just kind of like play with it in your hand a little bit. Just pretend like you can feel it there. Perfect. Now, using your right hand, I want you to pretend or imagine like you have the sharpest knife on planet Earth. Okay, so grab that knife. Be careful. Okay, I want you to see the knife. You can see how shiny it is and how sharp the edges are. Okay, now being careful, I want you to take your right hand and I want you to cut that lemon in half and just slowly cut it in half. And as you do, imagine the lemon as it separates into two pieces. You begin to feel the lemon juice start to drip down your palm, down your hand. It might even be running all the way down your forearm, kind of all the way down to your elbow, and then it's dripping down. That's right. Perfect. Once you have it cut in half, again, don't cut yourself. I want you to put the knife down. And then I want you to take one half of the lemon, put it to the side, so it's just one half only in your left palm. Perfect. Now I want you to look at it, and again, notice how it's glistening, the juices are flowing, and notice that smell. What does it smell like, Stephen? Let's take a big whiff. Smell that zesty lemon smell. Just pretend like you can smell it. That's right. We all know what a lemon smells like, don't we? Yep. Now, I want you to imagine taking that lemon, and I want you to take a giant bite. Put it up to your mouth and just sink your teeth into it and bite that sucker and just taste that disgusting lemon. Oh my God. It's like now you're salivating more. The lemon juice is running down your face. You can smell it. You can taste it. It's just disgusting. Perfect. All right. Now open your eyes. What's today's date?
Today is February 8, 9?
Yep. Yes.
February 8. Yep.
Now, what happened as soon as you took a bite out of lemon? How did your body react?
Well, it was very sour. And
right?
it just, yeah, it just reacted like it was a freaking real lemon.
Now, here's how powerful our imagination is. I had a client tell me one day that I told him a story about this one thing. And basically, I'll say it really quick, but I was watching this show. It's called Tulsa King. It's with Sylvester Stallone. He's like a mobster. He gets out of jail for 25 years in prison, and then he starts running his stuff in like Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, one of the things he does is he goes to like a weed shop, and he starts extorting the guy, right? So they go to a scene where Sylvester Stallone goes to the grower's farm, and they're negotiating. And the guy serves them like, cheese and crackers and jelly, and they're just kind of eating. And he's like, all right, let's get to our negotiation. So the farmer hands him a joint, and he goes, oh no, man, I don't do business under the influence. And the guy looks at him, he says, he looks at the jelly and he goes, a little too late, right? So he had the jelly was infused with marijuana. So then they cuts to a scene and Sylvester Stallone is in his Escalade and he's in the back, like a mobster, and he's puffing on a joint. Now I'm watching, I used to smoke a lot of weed back in the day. I haven't smoked weed in years, but I'm watching this and I'm going, holy shit, dude. Sylvester Stallone is like, either he's really, really acting really, really good, or he's actually high right now. Like he was playing it off perfectly. Like just he deserved an Oscar for how good he was playing that he was high. So in that moment, I was lying in my bed and I said, shoot, I wonder what it'd be like if I just pretended I was high right now. So I just like went back into my Rolodex in my mind and I used my imagination and I went, okay, let me just imagine what it would be like to be high like Sylvester Stallone. And I shit you not, in 15 seconds, I felt like I was high. And I felt I was so high, I literally started getting paranoid. And I started getting anxiety over nothing. I'm just lying in my bed. And for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I literally could not shake the feeling. Like I started to feel that feeling when you're high on marijuana. I was like, dude, I don't like this feeling. I just felt like, get it away from me, right? So finally I like shook it off. Well, I was telling that story to a client and he goes, "Oh no, man, I believe you." He goes, "I think he's allergic to bananas, if I remember correctly or something." And he goes, "No, man." If I even think about a banana, if I see a banana like on my phone and I look at it for too long, or there's a banana in the environment, he's like, my body will literally start to break out in hives as if I actually ate it, even though I didn't. So that's how powerful our imagination is it could literally, we could trick ourselves into being sick, right? So now here's the next step. We're going to do an exercise called magnetic hands. Okay. And again, we're using your imagination. Now, there's a famous quote that Yoda says, which I used to say incorrectly. I used to say, there is no try, there's only do or do not. What's the actual saying, Phil?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Dom got a lot of feedback on that in this last event.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Do or do not, there is no try. What does that mean? We either do something or we don't do it. There's no try. And literally the word try means to not do. Right now, if you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to try this thing," that's different. You're going to like taste something. But when you ever have somebody go, you invite them to a party or dinner, they're like, "Yeah, I'll try to be there." They're not coming because they're literally telling themselves at a subconscious level to not do the thing. Right. So keep that in mind. So here's what I want you to do, Stephen. I want you to put your hands out in front of you like this. Okay. And yeah, perfect. And I want you to stare at the space in between your hands. You can spread them out a little bit further. Yeah, not too far, just like about right. Sorry, like right about there. Cool. Put your hands up to the screen. I can't really see. So that they're right in between. There we go. Perfect. Right. So I want you to stare at the space in between your hands. And as you stare at the space in between your hands, I want you to pretend or imagine like your hands are the two most powerful magnets in the world. And as you're imagining those most powerful magnets in the world, your hands will begin to twitch. And as your hands begin to twitch, they're going to want to move closer and closer together. Because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world. And that's what magnets do. Magnets are attracted to each other. That's right. So as you're sitting there listening to my voice, staring at the space in between your fingers, you're going to notice that magnetic pull is getting stronger and stronger, stronger and stronger. And those hands are going to want to come together. And whenever those hands come together, you can go ahead and interlace your fingers and go ahead and just keep your hands up and close your eyes and go all the way down, all the way down. That's right. And as you close your eyes and as those hands come together, you're going to notice your hands are completely stuck together because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world. And that's what magnets do. Magnets get stuck together. Now, not yet, but in a moment, you're going to open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I want you to stare directly at your hands. So go ahead and open your eyes. As you open your eyes, as you stare at your hands, you're going to notice your hands are completely stuck together. It's as if they're one whole piece because remember, these are the two most powerful magnets in the world. And that's what magnets do. Magnets get stuck together. And as you're sitting there listening to my voice, you're going to notice the magnetic pull is getting stronger and stronger, tighter and tighter, tighter and tighter, tighter and tighter. That's right. Now, not yet, but in a moment, I want you to try and separate them. But I only want you to try and separate them when you are certain you will not be able to. So go ahead and try and separate them, and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but your hands are completely stuck together. Wonderful. Now go ahead and stop trying and keep your hands stuck together and close your eyes again. As you close your eyes, you notice that magnetic feeling begins to flow from your hands, goes all the way up your arms, all the way up your chest, all the way down to your ass. And now your ass becomes a magnet that's completely magnetized to your chair. I want you to imagine your chair is like a steel plate. And as you do, you'll notice that your entire body is becoming magnetized to the chair. It's getting stuck to the chair because remember, this is the most powerful magnet in the world and it's magnetized to the steel chair. Now, not yet, but in a moment, I want you to try to stand up. I only want you to try to stand up when you are certain you will not be able to. So go ahead and try to stand up and you will find that you cannot. And you can try and try and try, but no matter how hard you try, you are completely stuck to the chair. Now, Stephen, go ahead and stand up and open your hands and open your eyes. And stand up, open your hands, open your eyes. All right. Separate your hands. And go ahead and sit back down. What's 5 times 5?
25.
All right. So that, my friend, is what hypnosis feels like. Now, if we're doing like a actual session, we're clearing stuff, it's a little bit different, but it's the same process of just relaxing our body. Now, describe what you felt as we went through the process of the hands and the body and everything. What happened there?
Well, I'll go back even to the lemon thing. Just the picking up of the knife and cutting through the lemon was so real to me. That was one of the weirdest things. Like I couldn't quite see it perfectly clearly, but I could almost feel the pressure when I put down the knife to cut through it. I could feel the pressure of the lemon back into my palm, which was wild. And then obviously biting into it was nasty. I don't put lemon in my water, so that was a not a fun one for me. But I will say the magnet thing with the hands, like right when it started, the magnet like coming closer together, and you're like, you'll start feeling, before you said you'll start feeling them shake, they were starting to like, just, it was weird. It was very strange. So I feel after the lemon and after now, I felt a sense of calmness after the entire experience, more so than even being on this pod. Like I've done how many episodes now, Phil, that we've done together, and usually generally pretty calm and off the cuff. But there's always a little bit of like nerves, like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Or just chat or whatever. Right after, it's like nothing else mattered. It was like super calm and like, it was cool. It was a good, neat experience.
It's all good, right? Yeah. So I'll kind of break down a little bit what happened. So when you put your hands out in front, first, I have to get compliance. So I got to make sure that you're going to follow along. And if you don't, there's certain things to do to kind of get compliance. But when we stare at a point, what happens is we go into trance. And the reason why is because when our eyes are moving all around and we're scanning our environment, our brainwave cycles are in overdrive, just like, right? So we're scanning our environment. We're not really relaxing and tapping into the subconscious. So when we stare at a point, suddenly we're not processing as much data, so that allows our mind to relax a little bit. So as you do that, I begin to tell you at a subconscious level that your hands are magnets. Now, again, you know what that means. So naturally, your hands are going to want to come closer together, right? Then I have you close your eyes, which puts you deeper into trance, and you open your eyes. And then I said a key word. Remember what I said? Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah.
I said, try to open your hands, try and try and try. So when we tell ourselves to try, what happened is you were paralyzed at a subconscious level. Your mind was just like, okay, don't do it, essentially, right? And then I had that feeling go down into your butt, into the chair, and make you feel stuck in the same thing. Try and try and try. Now, as soon as I say, hey, stand up, open your hands, now you can do it, because I'm no longer telling you to try. I'm just telling you to do it. Again, there's do or do not. There is no try. So that's why that process works so effectively.
You know, and what I found was interesting too, when you said your hands are magnets, how I was looking at it was, you know how when you have two magnets and they come close to each other, they can't touch, they kind of like wrap around, right?
Yeah,
like they can't quite, because they're the same. Yeah. So my hand, when you said magnets, I felt that at first, right? Like I was like, I can't get them to get, like they were closing in, but I couldn't get them to. And then I realized what you're saying is like these magnets become tight, and then open my mind up to like, okay, now it's, and then I couldn't release them. Like I couldn't pull them together without recognizing that I needed to do that. Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah.
We have a convert. This is amazing.
Yeah, we converted them.
We'll see you in April.
Right?
All right. So on that note, yeah. How do people find you? How do they get in touch with you? What are you doing? Can they like connect with you? Email, call, social media?
Might be one of the easiest guys to find on the internet.
I saw you got like 120,000 followers on Instagram, so you're a very popular guy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So you could go on Instagram. So right now, as of the making of this podcast, every Saturday I do a free live hypnosis session where I take people through these exercises. We actually do a full like 30-minute session to help people break through their limiting beliefs in whatever area of life. So if they want to improve their relationships, they want to get in the gym, get healthy, all that, or make more money, take action, they have something they're afraid to do, whatever it is. I hypnotize them to break through those limiting beliefs, and then also get you excited and passionate and like reignite the feelings of, hey, here's where I want my life to be 1 year, 5 year, 10 years in the future. And when people come out of that hypnosis session, they're freaking fired up because they're ready to go out and make what they visualize in the hypnosis an actual reality. So for anybody who wants to experience that, you can go to my Instagram and just go on there, log on. I'm not going to do it forever. So maybe you're watching this in a couple months and it's not there, then it is what it is. And then we do events we're doing them every quarter now. We're coming up on our third event, April 26th through the 28th. So once you go and you log in for all that stuff, you get on our email list, you get all the materials if you want to come and bring a guest. And at the live events we blow people's minds, just one thing after another. Everybody loves it. So yeah, and it's going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger and better and better. So
it's an incredible event. You're an incredible coach and hypnotist, and I can't thank you enough for joining us here today and all the work that we've done together. Thank you. And that's a wrap. We'll link to the show notes so everyone can follow Dom and get connected if you'd like to. And we'll be back at you again next week on the Success Flow podcast.
Thank you, guys.